Well, hi there, and welcome to this webcast. Jonathan Foust here. Thank you for joining. I'm really happy to share this little meditation introduction and interview with you. Before we launch, a few quick thank yous. First, a big thank you to the Insight Meditation Community of Washington for hosting this, to our producer, Glenn Harrison. Also, a big thank you to Rita Moran, our mindful movement leader. If you'd like to take part in Rita's mindful movement offering, that happens at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, but before this presentation. If you'd like to learn more, you can find the Zoom link on my website and on my Facebook page. I also offer a newsletter, a weekly and a monthly, where I offer a compendium of talks and my best photography. Feel free to sign up for that if you like. Also, this is all offered in the spirit of generosity or the principle of dana. That is to say, I received so much in these practices, so much was offered freely to me. My intention is to make this freely available to anyone who's interested, so no one's denied access. And if you are interested in supporting this, thank you so much. Deeply, deeply appreciated. Finally, we're in the countdown, about 6 weeks to the deadline of June 1st for the Year of Living Mindfully program. And this is a whole year dedicated to waking up, cultivating wisdom, cultivating compassion, a deep dive into the practice of somatic inquiry, which is basically learning how all of your issues are in your tissues, and done in the context of community. It's primarily DC based. However, there is also a small online cohort, which I'm going to be offering this year. So you can get that information and application on my website. All this being said, let's turn our attention to a short centering, and then we're going to move into an interview I think you will find inspiring. So if you like, you might just take a few moments. This is just going to be a short centering. So close your eyes if you like. Let your body sway a little bit from side to side. There are a couple elements of practice, and I thought we would take just a few moments to reflect on each of these. The first is this whole idea of softening the body, softening inside. Could you imagine now your face expressionless, just scanning the muscles of your face? What could soften or let go? Could you relax your jaw, the tongue, and the lips? Could you relax the shoulders and just let your awareness flow down the arms, down through the elbows and down through the wrists, down into the palms? Could you soften the belly, just sensing as deep as you can? Where do you feel the breath moving in the belly? And could you relax even more right here? And can you feel the soles of the feet? Any tingling pulse? And just sensing now through the whole body, is there anything now that could relax or soften or let go? Just feeling this quality of present moment experience. So, one quality is this sense of softening and receiving. Another quality is using conscious, willful awareness to be present to what's here. And just for a minute or two, notice the sounds around you. And is it possible to keep your attention on the sounds? When the mind wanders, just come back and just inquiring, what am I experiencing right now through this sense door of sound? As you relax and as you receive the sound vibrations, you may also notice that which is aware. Can you sense what some call the seat of the witness? Awake to what's changing here in the realm of sound. And with the sense of the sound vibrations in the foreground, it is possible to widen your awareness to include everything in the background. Just noticing right now, for the next minute, everything that's changing, both externally and internally. And now just sensing another quality as we move from softening and relaxation to awareness of a point of concentration, such as sound, to the sense of who you are as the observer and as widening of awareness. You might explore right now, deeply relaxing in the presence. Could you soften even more? Could you relax even more? And could you let things be just as they are? You might now deepen your breath. Notice the quality of presence and notice anything that shifted. Sensing this quality of relaxation, awake to the senses, the sense of who you are as the one who is aware, and a quality of allowing, of resting in presence. Letting your body move, adjust from side to side. And whenever you're ready, you can let the eyes open. And welcome back. What do you imagine it would be like to be living a vibrant, healthy, and meaningful life devoted to helping others awaken to their fullest potential? Only one day to begin to experience severe headaches and seek medical attention and receive a diagnosis of glioblastoma. Well, that's what happened to Ray Manyoky just over a year ago. I've known Ray for a number of years, and I know that he is one of the most beloved teachers out there. And he has, for the last year, been navigating life with one of the most serious medical diagnoses imaginable. In the following conversation, I asked Ray how he's managed, what he's learning, how his practice is supporting him through his journey. And we're also joined by Tara Cassidy, who shares what she's discovered through her role as devoted caregiver. Every one of us is at some point going to be going through what Ray and Tara are going through. And I hope you find the following inspiring in some way. You may notice that the video, in this following video, that the camera is solely on Ray. My own video was inadvertently turned off, but surely you're not missing anything by not seeing me in the following. Please enjoy the following interview with Ray Manyoky and Tara Cassidy. Thank you and blessings. I wonder, just as maybe background, if you could just say a little bit about what called you to the practice,
Hmm.
and not only what called you to the practice, but what called you to give yourself so fully to it. Because I know you kind of turned your life inside out
Yeah.
when it came to these practices.
Well, it really started with your year-long program that you offered in 2016, 2017, YLM 8, Year of Living Mindfully 8. And during that year-long program, I was just like, this shit works, man. This shit works. I want to be able to take what I've learned and to give it back to people. And that's where my track towards teaching really, really started, was in that year-long program.
You know, there's an element of practice, and where I think for some people is like when something works for you, you just want to share the good news.
Yeah,
And I think that's very much part of your temperament, you know.
absolutely.
So what, you know, it's usually what draws us to practice is stress and suffering. What was your experience, you know,
Ooh.
before the practice? Like what actually drew you to, hey, maybe there's something to this?
Definitely stress, suffering, depression, like all of those outerlying, um, what are they, outerlying like negative effects. And I just found that doing meditation helped center all of those like outside emotions and helped really calm them down.
So there was a kind of a calming, and then what kind of arose out of the calming?
Mm, what arose out of the calming? Just a noticeable increase in my ability to help calm my nervous system and to reduce my nervous system down to its basics of just not hyper, not hypo, but yeah, just really, really allowing my own nervous system to calm itself down.
Mm. Wow. Yeah. So you pretty quickly stepped into a role of supporting people, guiding people, holding the space for people. I know through with my Monday night class, you led mindful dialogue for many,
Yep.
many years, and you got trained as a teacher. Um, I'm just curious around sort of like what it's been like for you. How has teaching deepened your understanding of the Dharma or of like perennial truth?
I think what it has really instilled in me is this idea of I've since April of last year, I've been in so many different ERs and hospitals. And um, my motto from all of that experience is hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait. Hurry, 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 and then just wait. And that's exactly what we do with the Dharma. It's exactly kind of, if there's an underlying message, is hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait. I don't know what we're waiting for, but we're just going to wait. And that's been an incredible kind of mind shift. Um, and I've definitely noticed how meditation really helps this whole process of I could feel my body getting all tense and tight, and then just relaxing everything and allowing my body to really unwind itself. And that has been in an incredible um, process to watch and to observe and to experience.
So one of the elements, of course, is recognizing impermanence, you know,
Yes.
and for many of us, that's kind of an intellectual understanding. Like, yeah, everything changes. Anything born of causes and conditions is subject to change. You mentioned being in ERs and hospitals, and you've been actively and viscerally engaged in that relationship with impermanence. And how, can you say a little bit around the journey and what is it, how have you called on the practice to support you when you're in the depth of such challenges as you've been in?
I think for me, the practice has been instrumental in noticing when my body is really, really stressed out. Like I'm really like hyper sensitive to what's going on, and how I could then scan my body and sense how much tension there is in the body throughout the body. So the practice has really been beneficial in observation, witnessing, and then just relaxing and calming around that and calming around whatever's coming up.
Hmm. Hmm. Have you experienced a lot of fear in the last, how many months has it been since your
So it's
diagnosis?
been April of last year when this all started. And I've had, I don't know how many MRIs, how much blood draws I've had, probably weekly blood draws, um, MRIs weekly, and it's been crazy. I mean, it's been absolutely going from about a year ago reflecting on, do I have enough money to live the rest of my life? And it's like, who knows? Who knows? You know, the question is, well, how many years do I have left? And that has always been a big struggle for me because I don't know how many years I have left. I know more now that there aren't many years left. And um, so I'm trying to, going back to the question around practice and how am I integrating practice into all of this? And it's really focused on relaxation,
Hmm.
really keeping my body relaxed and not like totally tensed out.
Are there times when you find it's impossible to do that?
There have been times at night, like when I'm trying to sleep,
Mhm.
where my nervous system is, and there's nothing I could do to calm it down. So I either get up and I go read, or I get up and I go into another room and do something in another room. Um, but those two things have been really, really, really beneficial.
Mm. Mm. What would you say are the primary emotions? Because it sounds
Hmm.
like there's tension, like there's tension in your body, learning to relax. What would you say are the primary emotions, and how do you work with emotions in your practice?
That's such a great question because those are um, those are definitely the main question that comes up when I think about, well, how do I integrate my practice into all of this that's going on, and how do I in one way keep from just completely dysregulating. And I have found that I don't really get dysregulated very often. Like my regulation of what's going on, I think, has been pretty consistent.
And you attribute that to just your practice, your capacity to just take kind of refuge in presence.
I think it is taking refuge in what's going on here and
Wow.
what's going on um, internally, because that's really the only thing that I can control is
Wow.
internal regulation. And, you know, I I have felt the anxiety, I've felt the depression, but it's not like it comes in, it's like it's so gripping that I get stuck in this whirlpool of negative anxiety or depression. Like I've not, in almost a year, I've not gotten stuck in any really deep emotion.
It's interesting because I know that many people say that when they cultivate a regular practice, quite often there's a sense of, nothing's really happening, but I keep doing it because I think it's good for me. But then when they really hit challenges, somehow like the practice just kind of kicks in.
Yeah. Um, I think the whole phrasing around kicking in happened this past week when I was waiting for some new meds to come in,
Hmm.
and they were a little slow in getting in. And I was like, yeah, whatever. When they get here, they'll get here. I'm in no rush. And it was definitely, I could feel that anxiety of starting to, woo, it's kicking in. Like, no, 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 let's not let that happen.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you find as you're going through the fluctuations of all the different tensions and the different emotions and all the concerns have got to be playing through right now. Do you find that your connection to something larger, like a sense of presence or the mystery or the sacred, has that evolved?
For me, no, it really hasn't. I don't feel like that has expanded or shrank or become a bigger part of what's going on, like inside. Um, I think what's really been going on more so has been the idea of longevity and taking longevity into context. When I first got diagnosed with glioblastoma, it's like you have 18 months. Your average life is 18 months. And I'm like, holy shit, that's like hardly anything.
Hmm.
That's like I'm almost at 1 year
Hmm.
since this all started. And that means I have 6 months. And that's like it's crazy to think about that. So I don't really spend a lot of time like reflecting on that and going back to, oh, I only have 6 months left to live. Um, it's such a weird context to actually reflect upon.
Hmm. Yeah. Has your sense of self changed as you're sitting with the unknown?
I think when I reflect on that question, the sense of self in what's going on now, I do feel that there is a change, that change is happening really, really fast.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty comfortable with it. Other people in my life, not so comfortable.
How,
Right,
how would you describe that change?
right, T? Um, I'm pretty like this is the new normal. And um I'm not fighting it. I'm not, you know, riding the wave. As Tara just said, I'm riding the wave. Just riding the wave.
I'm curious, Ray, I know that you are so beloved as a teacher. There's so many people who have been really touched by the sacred space that you create, for them. And I'm curious, as a teacher, how has this experience informed what you would want to share
Hmm.
with them?
I've thought about that question a lot lately because I do feel inside that I do want to teach, but it's like, what do I want to teach? What is it that I'm actually gonna unveil? And I think part of that unveiling is, well, how am I using the practice? How is the practice? How am I? what is the value of the practice for me right now? I think that's what that's the direction that I would steer my teaching towards is,
Mm.
oh, how is the teaching, what is the teaching doing for me?
Yeah. Yeah. And it sounds like the practice has helped you to sort of release anxiety of the future and return back into present moment awareness.
Yes. Yes. Because a lot of if people will ask like, well, how are you practicing now? Like, what is your typical practice? I've said my practice now is pretty much just awareness. Simple, simple, simple awareness. And awareness of am I holding stress someplace in the body? And that's the start of, okay, I feel stress across my shoulders. Let's go through and relax those areas and soften those areas. And that's been pretty much the core focus of what my practice is now is just keeping my body relaxed.
It's so profound. I mean, it's, you know, we have the kind of the foundations of awareness and, you
Yeah.
know, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of emotion, mindfulness of thoughts, you know, mindfulness of thought patterns. And being able to move from what I would imagine, at least for me, would be really perturbed thought forms, you know, to be able to shift from the story back to the direct felt sense of the experience and address that. That's about as deep as it gets, I think. Since you received your diagnosis, have you experienced any shift in intimacy or connection with others?
Yes.
Yes. I'm looking over at Tara. She looked over at me and I was like, yes. I have definitely found myself way more, what's the right word, Tara? Analytical or argumentative. Tara thinks I've gotten very argumentative. And it's always centered around when I have to take the dexamethasone, which is an anti-inflammatory to keep the swelling in my head from going really, really big. The side effect of that is it causes I get really irritable,
Mm.
like really irritable, like really snappy irritable. And for people around me, it's really it's kind of difficult to be around when I'm in that right, T?
Yeah.
Tara's shaking her head, yes.
What has it been like? Because I know, you know, you've got so many friends in the area. You got your hockey team that's around. What has it been like just to be with people now?
Hmm. Well, in June and July, we had our first rounds of chemo and radiation. So chemo was every day. It was like a 7-minute protocol. And we were doing it at a place in North Baltimore. So we had an Airbnb in North Baltimore and drove like 20 minutes south to this place. And then this second round of chemo and radiation that I just did in the summer, and that was held in downtown Hopkins in their medical center. And we drove from Frederick to Baltimore every day. The first treatment round, we stayed at an Airbnb north of the treatment facility and drove like 20 minutes south. So we didn't have the drive times weren't as bad the second round. And it was actually enjoyable. It was good.
The first round in the summer, and then the second round in the winter. You had friends drive you every day.
And then I had the second trip, second set of radiation. When we were driving to Baltimore, we had Tara drove one day, And then the next 4 days, we had friends drive me. So that was actually pretty cool to have friends that I honestly haven't seen in like years and years and years. And they drove, and it was really cool to spend time with them. It was really
Mm.
good.
Mm. This kind of leads to the next question that I've been wondering about, which is, given the situation, given the awareness of impermanence, given all the challenges, what brings you moments of peace or even joy
Mm.
right now?
What brings me peace and joy now is just settling into every single moment. That's what I find a lot of peace is just settling into like today is what is today? Today is Friday. Today is a Friday. I don't even know what day it is anymore. And it's really funny. I have to look at my phone and then look at the calendar and be like, oh, today is Friday, April 18th. And this weekend is a long weekend. Like, who cares? Right, T?
Every weekend's a long weekend.
Every day is a weekend. It's like, oh yeah, that's right.
I'm just remembering when we were talking a while back, and I asked you if there was anything undone,
Hmm.
anything that you wanted to do that you haven't done, and you just shared how you've had a life of just traveling the world,
Yeah.
and there was really nowhere to go.
And I think that still holds because I've thought about that. I've thought about, well, what's my list of things that I want to do before I die? And I'm like, I've done a lot, and there's not a lot that I want to do.
Mm.
So,
So, which leads to another question, which is kind of a gnarly question. Um, are there any like unexpected gifts or teachings that have come out of this that you normally wouldn't have chosen?
mhm. I think the idea of the new normal, like, so I wake up and maybe I don't feel great, and that's the new normal. That's my new normal for the day. And um, I think accommodating that has been really, really beneficial.
Wow. Wow. What would you say, what would you say is your edge
Mhm.
these days? Like what's the
Edge.
learning, what's the learning edge?
Oof. That's such a great question because it's like, well, what am I learning? Like, what am I really learning through all this? Um, accepting the new normal. I
Mm.
think that's the big thing, accepting the new normal. That
Mm.
every day there's like something new that's popping up and it's like that's the new normal. Yeah.
And when you sort of do that internally, like this is the new normal, w- what's that like inside? Like what shifts when you kind of label the experience that way?
Well, I definitely feel a release of tension. Like when I reflect on, well, this is my new normal and this is the new um this is what my normal life is going to be. This is what my life is going to be like.
Uh,
And that I'm like, yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm good with that.
Physicality.
Mhm.
it reminds me of that teaching from I don't know where, but was something in the Buddhist teachings of of someone just saying, when I put away grief and concern for the world and I return to the body in and of itself right now, there's peace. And again, it's so easy to say this, but I'm so touched at how you're really embodying that practice. What about letting go? You've been letting go of your role as a teacher, you've been letting go of the idea of a future. How do you work with letting go?
I think that is such a difficult, of all the questions that have been asked or thrown out there over this past year, that's the most difficult one because my new normal is completely different now. Like I reflect on, well, what would I teach? What do I teach? And how do I think I'm getting stuck on how do I take what I'm experiencing and turning it into a teaching, like a teaching role.
Mm. Mm. And I guess the question is like, what would you most want to pass on to others? Do you have a sense of that?
I hmm, I think what comes to mind is that this practice is continuous, that it's always there, that it can be always there, that it can always be incorporated into whatever is going on in your life. And that to me is really beneficial in terms of, well, I reflect on that year that we did with you, the year of living mindful. And towards the end of that year, the phrase that kept coming up in my mind was, this shit works. I want to teach it.
That's,
And that that became like the cornerstone of guiding me into, well, how do I take this and teach it?
mm,
I think that's the hard part because there's so many teachers out there that I could just sit there and watch and be like, that's the one I want to follow. And what I realize is that that might not be the best approach. That it's all within here.
mm.
It's all within my own heart. And what is my heart saying? What is my heart guiding me to do?
Wow. So the phrase that comes to mind, which is attributed to the Buddha at the end of his life, was to be a light unto yourself.
Yes.
Don't look for scriptures, don't look for teachers, don't look for the wise ones to tell you,
Yeah.
but be a light unto yourself.
Yeah. And I find that that's a question that a lot of that I'm being asked about now is, well, what do all these teachers say? Like, what do they say? And I'm like, honestly, they all say the same thing. If you really listen to what they're saying, they all say the same thing, maybe slightly different words, but they're all coming from a viewpoint of this is what I read in the Buddha. This is what I read in all these different discourses.
Mm. So, speaking of the heart, what are you most grateful for in your life right now?
In this point in my life, I am so grateful for everybody that's surrounding me, supporting me, right, T? And I mean, it's unbelievable how much support I've received.
Mm.
Unbelievable. I have a stack probably this thick of cards, postcards, emails, messages from people through Banyan, through IMCW, through my own teaching up here in Frederick. And it's just incredible how much support I've received from people that I may have just seen online. And to me, that's pretty incredible.
Wow. What a gift. What a reflection.
Yeah.
What a reflection. And when you think about your journey, well, what are you most proud of?
Hmm. I think through this whole practice, the thing that I'm most connected to is my inner wisdom. What am I feeling inside? How am I feeling it? Where did that come from? And that has been incredible.
As having known you for a number of years, just to be witness to your personal transformation has been amazing. How you took these teachings, which are really about like dismantling the small conditioned self, and absolutely put them to work. They're like sometimes I think like these teachings are kind of like a virus. You let them in, and they start breaking apart that tight conditioned self, and to see the light and the joy that's shining through you has been just extraordinary. So, is there anything that lights you up about your life, your practice these days?
I think it's the question that comes up quite often when I think around that. What's next? What's next? Like, what is the next thing that's going to happen? And who knows? I have no idea. But I'll find out.
Mm. Is there anything that, we talk a lot about in the practice of how, like, when something's not going your way, usually there's some unmet need. There's something you're wanting, something you're needing. And when you think about your life now and how your practice has evolved, like, is there a sense of anything that you're needing, anything that you're wanting that would support you in your life right now and through these coming months?
I don't think so. Nothing's really popped up being like, oh, this is the one thing that I need. Like that, nothing's ever really come up. Tara?
Just for the daily support.
Just daily support.
And you have that in place pretty much?
We do, pretty much, yeah.
And I reach out when you don't.
And Tara reaches out when we need some help.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. That's the thing that I have been so astounded by is how much help we've received.
Mm.
And it's predominantly my ice hockey buddies and my meditation buddies.
Mm.
Like those are the two areas.
Neighbors.
And neighbors.
Mm.
Unbelievable amount of help from neighbors.
Wow.
Like that to me has been the most remarkable.
Mm. So you've been one of the most vital, alive people that I've ever known. You know, teaching an incredible teaching schedule, playing hockey, just a huge yes to life. And then out of nowhere, this diagnosis comes. And again, sort of that shift from intellectually knowing that, yes, impermanence is a reality, but really working with all the physical symptoms and having to completely adjust to this new normal. For someone who might be going through what you have gone through, what advice would you offer? Because we're all going to experience this.
I think that to me has been the most profound question of it, and it really adjusted how I'm viewing this in the context of I'm going to die. I don't know when, but I will at some point soon. And that's known. When? I don't know. And I'm not getting caught in a place of, oh my gosh, it's going to be like 3 months. Like, I'm not even thinking about that. It's going to happen when it happens. And so far, I really haven't felt like it's happening. And that's the weird thing is, I mean, my symptoms right now, I'm still really wobbly. Like I'm very wobbly. Like when I walk, I'm like shuffling around. And I have a really bad halt stop response to the world. And that's all because of where the tumor is now is in the cerebellum. And the cerebellum processes all of that work.
Cerebellum is your balance and
Yeah.
coordination.
Hmm.
So that's the thing that's weird. Like, I'm definitely like, when I walk around, because we're at my mom's house, and when I walk around the house, I'm like, oh, I have to watch where I'm going, or I might stumble into something.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow.
And that's weird. That's very weird.
Yeah. So if someone were to reach out to you and say, I'm just starting out where you were last April,
Yeah.
well, what would you want them to know?
Hmm. I would remembering the core of our practice is awareness and being aware of what's going on. And especially internally, like when do I notice when my body starts to close up to the world?
Hmm.
And remember to keep my body open to the world has been the biggest part of my practice of being aware, attuned, and not allowing any of those emotions that arise like just take over. Like I've never had in this, I'll just say this year, because it started April 23rd, almost. It'll be next week when I first went to the hospital. And the shift in knowing what I now am exposed to and knowing what medical condition I'm dealing with is there's no cure for it. There's no like immediate cure, like here, take this pill and it'll cure you.
Hmm.
That's really, 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 really weird to think about how there is no cure.
Yeah.
So living every day as if it's the last moment is what I am doing and going through. And that's been my sole focus of how I live my life and how this practice of meditation keeps me centered, grounded, stable.
Wow. So just to kind of slow this down a little bit, that phrase, keep your body open to the world.
Yeah,
That when you notice the clench, when you notice the shutting down, when you notice the emotions or like the strong mental states, to work it in your body, to find where that tension is and soften and relax.
absolutely.
Wow. Wow. Is there anything else you might want to say about this journey,
Hmm.
about anything you would want to let people know about this life, how to live it?
Well, I mean, I've been living it a year and every day is like something new and novel. And it is definitely a learning process. Um, and the learning process is how do I continue to practice meditation on a daily basis when I know that, ooh, that little feeling, that doesn't feel really good.
Mm.
And just writing on that awareness and going forward with that is something that I have kind of embraced much, much deeper.
Wow. So how to stay present in awareness when it's not pleasant.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. How to stay with it. Wow. I'm curious as Tara is listening. Tara, is there anything that Ray hasn't said?
She walked away. I don't know where she
Oh,
went.
she did.
Where are you? Yeah, there was a question for you, Tara. Oh, she'll be right here.
Okay, this is good.
Here she comes. Here she comes.
Hi.
So, Ray, Tara, I was actually I had a question for you, which is there anything that Ray hasn't shared that you think that he might share? But the question before that is, you have been so much in loving attendance and loving presence. What has it been like for you to be in the role of the space holder and the caretaker?
It is the biggest challenge of my life, for sure. Um, One that I'm open to and more than willing to step into. And as my grandmother always said, God doesn't give you anything you can't handle. And this is a pretty big one, because there are big emotional changes. There's personality changes that he doesn't recognize, and that's challenging. And for me to finally like relax and ride the wave and be present with whatever is and not to take personally when, he snaps at me because he's on steroids to keep the
Mhm, mhm,
inflammation down. And just making things easy and comfortable. And part of that is to be open to asking for help and also completely receiving help.
mhm,
I learned that after, I lost my mom in 2023. So it's been a quite a ride for me for the past 2 years. But one of the things that I learned through her illness and passing is ask for help.
mhm,
People want to help. And I've asked for help, and it's been unbelievable the amount of help we've received, like he said, from hockey friends, from meditation friends, from neighbors, everything from, cooking for us to taking care of our yard to getting rid of stuff, just purging. Um, and for me now to be in the house with Ray so that I can relax and go for a walk and take care of myself. And I learned the hard way that even with all of the tools that I have in place, I wasn't utilizing them the way I should have.
mhm,
And one of those things is to be physically active to dispel any of the worry and concern about, the unknown.
mhm. Yeah. So how would you say your relationship to fear, especially like the fear of dying, how has that shifted through your inner work, your inner practice?
We have quite an interesting relationship. It's not easy. And I have to remind myself constantly, to have that tea with Mara.
Mm,
Um, and it's a really challenging practice. And this is practice in it's neither of us are sitting on the cushion anymore. This is practice in real life, at 100 miles an hour. And so it's either trying to remind myself or the connection with my IMCW friends to remind me, to just to be with what is, to breathe,
yeah.
to accept.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And when we're in fear, of course, we get small, we calcify, we move into self-protection. And the more we kind of hold that in the light of awareness and the light of compassion, things shift. And so the question I asked Ray, which I would love to ask you, Have you found that your connection to something larger, like presence or the mystery or the sacred, has that evolved?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a family where we talked about death and dying all the time. Um, so there's at least a familiarity with that. And so probably, yeah, absolutely. It has probably grown even more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Having sat at the bedside of my mother's partner as he died, sitting by my mother's bedside when she passed, and the anticipation of being there for Ray when his time comes,
Hmm. Yeah.
which unfortunately is sooner than, either of us ever planned.
Hmm.
He's pretty darn young, you know? So,
Yeah. Yeah. And if there was someone who's in your situation and just sort of coming into the recognition of here's a partner who I love who's going through what Ray is going through, what advice would you have for them?
ooh, that's a good one. Using every tool in your toolbox, and if your toolbox is not full, use what you have. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. You cannot do this alone. You absolutely cannot do it alone, and don't be a martyr.
Mm.
Do not be a martyr for this. I actually have a mentor through the National Brain Tumor Network, another organization they hooked me up with. And the mentors have told me, you're doing all the right stuff. Don't do what I did, which was do everything on their own.
Mm.
It's still hard. You're still the only one that takes the brunt of everything. And so you've got to find ways to take care of yourself and make sure, like, there's no excuses. Like, ask your next door neighbor, ask your family members, ask church members, whoever, to help in whatever way they can. If that means sitting in the house for an hour so you can just go out for a walk and get fresh air,
Mm.
or whatever. But like, don't be a martyr.
Yeah.
You have to have the help, to be the frontline caretaker.
Yeah.
It's different when you are the person. It's your significant other, your partner, your spouse. It's different than when it's your parent, or I don't know about children. That would be, that would be really hard too. But you just can't do it alone.
Yeah. Well, it's taking refuge in awareness and taking refuge in truth. And the thing we tend to overlook is taking refuge in love and support.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm so glad you were able to open to that and share the experience,
Yeah.
and be supported.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow.
And people want to see Ray. They want to be supportive of both of us. And I think people tend to underestimate those around them that are willing to help. Like, just put a blanket help out there, and you'd be so surprised at who's willing to do what. If it's hanging pictures in our house, people have come to help hang pictures in our house to make it more warm and welcoming in hours, you know, to invite people out. And the biggest thing is the love is that people are afraid of sick people, and which is unfortunate. So they say, oh, I don't want to bother you guys. And I'm like, for God's sakes, bother us, because
Mhm.
we're living, doing the same thing over and over. It's like Groundhog's Day. So please disturb us. And if we can't be with you in that moment, then we'll send you away. But please, please disturb us.
That's really wonderful advice. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
is Ray there? Just so I would
Yes.
love to
Come
get
back,
both of you
sweetie.
on camera. Can you both stay?
Yeah. Are you good?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Hey, thank you. I love you both, and I'm so grateful that you took the time for this conversation.
Here, you sit on my lap.
There.
There you
That's
go.
perfect.
Wonderful.
We love you so much, Jonathan. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
everything and being such a big part of our lives.
Well, so much love and light to you, and we'll definitely be in touch.
You got it.
Sounds good.
All
Thanks,
right.
Jonathan.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
now.